Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us here at KAKM for Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. Looking at the watch and warning map here, we've got a high wind warning out for Prince of Wales Island from Dixon Entrance to Cape Decision. That's for tomorrow morning, looking for winds to increase as a big storm moves up. Winds will increase 30 to 40 miles an hour, gusts to 70 miles an hour. Again, that's out for tomorrow. And then the high wind advisories got extended out for until 10 p.m. this evening for the southeastern Brooks Range, the upper Koyukuk Valley, and the Yukon Flats and surrounding uplands areas. Again, winds gusting to 45 miles per hour in these areas with the highest gusts in the higher terrain above about 2,000 feet. And again, that's out for this evening. And then they should begin to diminish starting later this evening, overnight tonight, into tomorrow and Monday as well. Yesterday's satellite imagery showed the storm system rolling up the southeast coast there that brought all the heavy wind and rain to the panhandle yesterday. A lot of that moisture pulling back to the west there along the North Gulf Coast and into the southeast interior. Some loose clouds here in the west, and then some clearing going on up over the Koyukuk and upper Yukon valleys, as well as in the Fairbanks area. Some breaks down here over Bristol Bay as well, but a lot of clouds from the northern Bering Sea coming southward and then swinging right into the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. That pattern's still going on today with pretty gusty winds through this area, showers down across the Pribilofs into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. A few more clouds today in across Bristol Bay, and not too bad but breezy out here over the western Aleutian areas. Then that low tracked westward and came across the Kenai Peninsula this morning and has now moved in across the Alaska Range into the Kuskokwim Valley. That brought some showers with it earlier today across south central Alaska. Rain still going on with this cloud feature here along the North Gulf Coast back into the Kenai Peninsula, rain into western Prince William Sound. And this band shifting northward here brought a few showers into the central Tanana Valley with some areas of light snow from Northway earlier today up in toward Eagle. And then it cleared out behind it. Pretty nice day over the Copper River Basin, a little on the breezy side, but temperatures into the lower 50s in some areas there. And then a trough sliding by to the east brought some rain into the southern southeast coast. Otherwise, it was a kind of a partly to mostly day with some scattered showers across the panhandle. There was some fog that reduced visibility to a quarter mile this morning, but that improved during the afternoon hours. Again, the rain and showers up along the North Gulf Coast, south central Alaska, rain and snow showers over the Alaska Range and into the Kuskokwim Valley areas. And pretty gusty winds, again, up to 45 miles an hour here through the northern interior. And that same pattern going on along the Arctic coast up in that area there. Easterly winds 40 to 45 miles per hour in gusts, and those coming around across the Russian Far East and then become northerlies here southward to the eastern Aleutian. St. George seeing gusts of 40 miles an hour this afternoon. The showers from the St. Lawrence Island area scattered all the way down into the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Drier but still breezy out to the west there. And tonight we'll see a trough spread some rain into the western Aleutian areas there. And otherwise we've got low center south of Kodiak Island. Look for showers from the island there right up into the southwest interior. And of course that'll be in the form of snow with any elevation at all in this area. Probably mixed rain and snow in the Kuskokwim Valley. Periods of rain continue along the North Gulf Coast and showery conditions across south central Alaska. And a band of showers moves across the southeast coast. Otherwise, winds beginning to diminish here up over the northern interior areas, but staying pretty brisk up along the Arctic coast. Basically dry here through the Tanana Valley all the way up into the North Slope. And still a lot of showers here coming southward across the Alaska Peninsula. And then the storm moves northeastward, the next storm that tomorrow. will swing up to just off the south coast there, right along about 140 west on the longitude for that, deepening to 963 millibars. So storm warnings are out from Dixon Entrance all the way up to Cape Fairweather for tomorrow. We've got gale warnings, southeast winds increasing to 40 knots for Clarence Strait, and small craft advisories for the remainder of the inside waters. Look for rain, heavy at times, moving in as well. And the whole thing slowly moving northward throughout the day, with rain spreading up into the northern southeast coast by late morning, early afternoon. Otherwise showery, mostly cloudy, scattered showers here across south central Alaska. This low near Kodiak is going to keep it wet in that area. And then the showers continue here from the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutian areas, back to the northwest, mixed rain and snow showers, St. Lawrence Island. Low there near Ammonix, so look for some scattered precipitation here, mixed precipitation across Norton Sound, southern Seward Peninsula coastline and inland. Less wind tomorrow, but still dry, partly sunny skies here from the Copper River Basin through the Tanana Valley up to the Koyukuk, Upper Yukon, North Slope, looking for some clearing. Could even see some clearing along the Arctic coast as well here, anywhere up in that area, especially on the east side. And then that trough keeps a narrow band of light rain, drizzle, and fog here from Shemya. That'll spread in toward Adak and probably not reach the Atka area. And then for Sunday night and Monday, this low moves northward, and by Monday afternoon is up in the Yukon there. And still enough gradient here to keep gale warnings in along the coast there for the Panhandle. Southwest flow keeps it wet, periods of rain continuing with a couple of troughs back out to the west and southwest. That's going to keep conditions pretty wet probably into Monday night and through most of Tuesday the way it looks right now. Low pressure doesn't have a lot of weather with it here over the southern Cook Inlet, or actually the Barren Islands there. So going for a partly sunny day on Columbus Day here for south central Alaska, the Kenai Peninsula. Could see a few scattered showers over the western Alaska range, but pretty good conditions here over much of the interior, right up through the Tanana Valley. Again, lighter winds, much lighter winds now up over the northern interior. And the eastern Arctic coast, less gradient, but still carrying some winds on the coastline there, or the marine areas, but lighter winds in along the North Slope areas. Chance of some moisture here over the northwest, and still looking at the showery conditions here from St. Lawrence Island, southward to the Pribilofs, right up to the Alaska Peninsula, but the gradient slacker now, or not quite as tight as it has been, so winds diminishing in this area as well. And then a frontal system pushes some rain in again, a little bit more organized system coming in, spreading rain from Shemya and Attu in toward Adak during the afternoon hours, with a little bit of an increase in the wind, but really not that strong at all. Temperatures along the southeast coast today, mostly in the lower to mid 50s, with a 53 at Sitka, 54 down at Klawock, Petersburg and Wrangell both at 54, Juneau had 53, 52 in Yakutat, 48 Cordova, Valdez up to 50 degrees, as was Talkeetna. Upper 40s here, northern Cook Inlet, Seward and Homer had 46, a 49 there at Kodiak. In the Copper River Basin, Gulkana 51 degrees, 41 with wind gusts of 35 miles an hour earlier today at Delta, 36 over at Northway, and a 37 at Fairbanks. Eagle again saw some light snow today. They had 30 degrees this afternoon. Fort Yukon at 27. Arctic Village, a cooler 21 degree reading, but Bettles up to 37. 30 degrees at Ambler, mid-30s here across Kotzebue Sound in the northwest valley areas, and the Arctic coast mostly in the mid to upper 20s, just about everywhere there, with 27 at Dead Horse, 25 at Barrow, 24 at Point Lay, and Seward Peninsula, Nome had 38 degrees, McGrath 34 this afternoon, Aniak the same thing, Bethel at 37, St. Mary's was up to 41, lower 40s here for the Pribilofs, and mostly in the mid to upper 40s across the Aleutian chain, with mid 40s to lower 50s along the Alaska Peninsula. King Salmon had 44 degrees, while Togiak, or actually Cape Newenham, had 42. Lows for tonight, single numbers through the Brooks Range area, otherwise teens and 20s for the Arctic coast, upper 20s to lower 30s here over the Yukon Delta, upper 30s to lower 40s over Bristol Bay, south central Alaska, mid to upper 40s for the Panhandle. And for the highs tomorrow, in the upper 40s to lower 50s across the southeast coast. About the same thing here across southern Alaska, mostly in the 40s here. But upper 40s for the Alaska Peninsula for the highs tomorrow. Again, a day much like today up along the Arctic coast and North Slope with 20s up in that area, teens and 20s through the Brooks Range. Look for some mid-40s here over portions of the Tanana Valley, mid to upper 30s back across the Seward Peninsula. Flying weather, marginal VFR here spreading northward across the southeast coast tomorrow. Also up over the eastern interior. IFR along and on the east side of the western Alaska Range with marginal VFR in across Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, pretty marginal here in the southwest, as well as the Bering Sea northward there into the Chukchi Sea, and some more marginal VFR out over the western Aleutians and southwest Bering. Passes shaping up like this, both Anatuvik and Adigan will be VFR again tomorrow. And Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR with IFR on the eastern entrances of both passes. And rainy IFR on the east entrance as well, with marginal conditions through the pass into the west. Windy, marginal VFR. Isabel, same forecast. Mentasta, though, VFR. And Tanita looking VFR as well. Portage, IFR on the eastern entrance, otherwise marginal. And for Chilkoot and White, IFR improving to marginal VFR during the late morning hours and into the afternoon. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 to 4,000 feet right up into the Tanana Valley area, and then 6,000 feet down across the Queen Charlotte Islands there, about 2,000 feet in over the southern Bering Sea, 4,000 feet well south of the Aleutians. Icing possibilities tomorrow. Could see some with that low center just south of Kodiak Island. Could be some light to isolated, moderate rime or mixed icing in that area back up to Kamishak Bay. And then with the big storm coming northward, areas of icing advancing northward with that there across all of the southeast coast, progressing to possibly Yakutat in the afternoon. And the winds aloft showing the jet stream out of the northwest sailing down across the western Bering Sea, taking an easterly direction, then 120 knots right back up into the southern panhandle. 9,000 foot winds showing strong, gusty 50 to 60 knot winds here at 9,000 feet. Coming northward there with that low center here over the eastern Gulf of Alaska. Easterlies 20 to 35 knots along the North Gulf Coast. The Arctic coast easterlies 25 to 30 knots. And then this broad area of northwest winds across the Bering Sea, 25 to 35 knots right down into the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. 3,000 feet showing pretty strong winds at this elevation as well. 55 knots there coming in toward the central and southern panhandle. Otherwise, easterlies 25 to 45 knots for the North Gulf Coast. 25 to 35 knot winds in conjunction with that low near Kodiak Island. Easterlies 20 to 30 knots along the Arctic coast, and 30 to 40 knot winds here over the eastern Bering Sea down to the Alaska Peninsula. Look for severe turbulence, again coming northward throughout the day across the southeast coast, mostly below about 5,000 feet. Pretty smooth through the interior, though, tomorrow with some isolated moderate chop along the eastern Arctic coast, then moderate chop here for the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, mostly below about 6,000 feet. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Working, traveling, or playing on the water is a way of life for Alaskans. But Alaska's cold water and harsh conditions can quickly turn any boating trip into a life-threatening emergency. Unlike marine mammals with their natural insulation and buoyancy, humans can't survive in Alaska's water without additional flotation and protection from the cold. Immersion suits are designed to provide the flotation and insulation a person's life depends on in a cold water emergency. Immersion suits, sometimes called survival suits, have been around for a long time. Today, there are a wide variety of sizes and designs available. There is no best brand of immersion suit. All should meet United States Coast Guard standards and have a label inside indicating Coast Guard approval. Having a Coast Guard approved immersion suit on board is just the first step. For an immersion suit to protect you in the water, it must fit correctly, be properly maintained, and be stored in an accessible location. You must also practice putting on your immersion suit quickly to make sure you can do so in an emergency. Commercial fishing vessels operating in cold waters are required to have an immersion suit of the proper size for each individual on board. The only way to find your correct size is to try on an immersion suit. Make sure it'll fit over the clothes that you typically wear on deck. Check to make sure the hood seals around your face, that your hands fit into the gloves, and that the suit will not ride up over your head. If it does, large amounts of water can enter through the hood, decreasing your chances for survival. If you are a between-sized person, try another brand of suit. One brand may be cut too large for you, while another brand may fit perfectly. In an emergency, you must be able to identify the correct size of immersion suit quickly. If there are different sizes of suits on board, mark them with easily recognized objects such as a whistle, a light, or some additional reflective tape. This will aid in quick identification, especially at night.
Hey Pat, how are you doing?
Hey Jerry, how are you doing?
Well, pretty good. Broke the zipper on my suit, so I guess I need to get another suit for this trip.
Well, you bet. We got them right here.
When buying a new immersion suit, take a moment to examine the features and make sure it fits you. All immersion suits have a waterproof zipper. This is one of the most important features of the suit. Take a moment to make sure the zipper works smoothly and has a handle that is easy to grab. Immersion suits come with a wide variety of gloves to suit individual preferences. 3 or 5 fingered gloves are common, but may be difficult to work in. Removable gloves provide the most dexterity, but they are difficult to keep watertight and often cause your hands to get cold quickly. Try out different gloves to determine which type best meets your needs. Pockets for lights and other survival gear are an important feature on an immersion suit. On some brands, you can add pockets which zip into the flotation collar or slide over the arm. All immersion suits have a face flap that protects your nose and mouth. Some have Velcro attached to the back of the face flap to hold it open while donning the suit. Many immersion suits also have one-way exhaust valves built into the legs. These valves are designed to let air out without letting water in. They're intended to prevent trapped air from causing a person to float head down in the water. To be Coast Guard approved, an immersion suit must include the following items. It must have 62 square inches of retroreflective tape placed so it can be seen when a person is floating in the water. It must have a light with a dated battery. It must have a pillow or a collar that provides additional flotation. This additional flotation is very important in rough seas. The flotation collar is inflated by pressing down on the tip of the hose with your mouth and blowing air into it. When the tip is released, the valve closes and air can't escape. Make sure the tip of the hose moves freely without sticking. If the hose has a locking nut, make sure it is always set in the open or down position. Finally, Coast Guard regulations require immersion suits to be marked with the name of the vessel or the owner of the suit. Ask your immersion suit manufacturer for the type of marking ink they recommend. Immersion suits should be inspected at least once each month. If properly maintained, they will last many years. The zipper on an immersion suit should receive careful attention during each inspection. Green on the zipper is a sign of corrosion. To remove corrosion, try cleaning the zipper with a toothbrush and a slurry of baking soda and water. Rinse with fresh water. If any green is still present, repeat the process. If this doesn't remove all the corrosion, immediately remove the suit from service and send to a factory-authorized facility for repair. Immersion suit zippers need to be regularly lubricated with a non-petroleum lubricant recommended by the manufacturer. Spread the lubricant on all sides of the zipper. Be sure and lubricate the locking teeth on the back of the zipper. Slide the zipper up and down a few times to spread the lubricant evenly. Don't forget to lubricate the snaps on the stowage bag to assure easy access to your suit when you need it. Inspect the suit for holes, rips, burns, and grease or oil. Carefully inspect the seams for leaks in the hands, crotch, and other areas. Repair any damaged seams with a sealant recommended by the manufacturer. Pull gently on the inflation hose to make sure it is not loose. At least once a year, inflate the flotation collar to make sure that it will hold air overnight. Check the light for any sign of corrosion. Make sure to use dated batteries and replace any that are expired or soon to expire. Test the light. Inspect the retroreflective tape. Yellowed tape should be replaced. After using a suit in a swimming pool or in salt water, rinse it thoroughly with fresh water. It is best to dry your immersion suit in a well-ventilated area, out of the weather and out of the sun. To prevent destructive mold and mildew, it is important to dry both the inside and the outside of the suit. In the off-season, remove your immersion suit from the bag and store it indoors. This will keep the suit dry and allow the neoprene material to maintain its loft. It is highly recommended that suits be inspected once a year by an authorized service facility. Immersion suits must be stowed in an accessible location out of the weather. Look around your vessel and find the best place with ready access in all kinds of emergencies. The zipper should be stored in the open position with the zipper about an inch up from the bottom. This will allow the suit to be quickly donned in an emergency and give you room to work the zipper down if it jams. Put plastic bags in the suit so it will be easier to get your feet in quickly with boots or shoes on. Most suits should be rolled, not folded. Roll the suit up beginning at the feet and moving up the legs. Be sure the face flap is left open, either inside the hood or attached outside to the hood on the pad provided with some brands of suits. Roll the hood over the body of the suit, fold the arms across, slide the suit into the bag, and snap the bag shut. A slightly different method is used for Bailey's immersion suits. Bailey's recommends their suit be folded along the line of the zipper. Fold the suit into thirds and place the suit inside the Bailey immersion suit bag.
Welcome back. Look for storm force winds on the south coast and gale force easterlies 45 knots on the north coast there, with seas running from 13 feet all the way up to 28 feet down to the south. Southeast winds coming up to 40 knots for Clarence Strait and southeast 25 for Stevens Passage. Northerly winds at 20 knots for Lynn Canal. And the outlook for Monday is small craft advisories here for southerly winds 25 to 30 knots over the inside waters, and then we've got gale warnings the entire stretch of the coastline out here to the west, with mostly from a southwest direction on the central and south coast, southerlies up to the north. And for the North Gulf Coast tomorrow, small craft advisories, east winds at 25 knots, easterlies at 20 knots for Prince William Sound, northeast winds increasing to 20 knots through Cook Inlet, and southeast for the Barren Islands at about 20. Same thing for Kodiak Island, lighter winds in across Shelikof Strait. And then going to Monday, winds become light and variable with pretty slight seas for northern Cook Inlet. Westerly winds 15 to 20 knots from the Forelands all the way down into Shelikof Strait. Still have some small craft advisories there for the Barren Islands at 25 knots. Otherwise, westerlies at 20 knots here up to the western North Gulf Coast areas. And then for the Prince William Sound zone, light northerly winds. And for Bristol Bay, northwest at about 10 tomorrow, but small craft advisories here for the Alaska Peninsula, northwesterlies 25 to 30 knots with seas 10 to 12 feet. And then for Monday, westerlies at 25 knots for the peninsula with 9 to 10 foot seas, 15 knots out of the west for Bristol Bay, seas at about 4 feet, southwest of Kodiak Island, westerly winds at 20. Out across the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, northwest winds at 30 knots, and that extends in toward Atka, and then from about Adak off to the west there, more westerly directions, and then southwest for the far western marine zone at about 25 knots. And then for Monday, that next system bringing 30-knot winds out of the south into the western Aleutians, otherwise lighter southwesterlies here for Adak and Atka. And for the eastern Aleutians, westerlies 20 to 25 knots with seas running 9 to 12 feet. Up along the southwest coast, I've got small craft advisories going north of Nunivak Island for 25-knot winds. South of the island, more northwesterly at 20 with seas at about 7 feet. Gale warnings for the Pribilof Islands here northwest 35 with 14-foot seas, and that wind pattern extends right up into the northern Bering Sea. For Monday, the winds come down, still small craft advisory levels here and pretty brisk for the northern Bering Sea, St. Matthew Island area, northwest diminishing to 25 knots for the Pribilofs and 15 knots south of Nunivak Island, small craft advisories to the north. Up along the Arctic coast, pretty windy conditions continue through tomorrow. Heavy freezing spray all along the coastline, easterly winds 30 to 35 knots, strongest here on the east side, where there'll be about 40 knots with 13-foot seas, and easterlies at 25 knots from Wales to Cape Thompson there with freezing spray. And for Monday, northerly winds at 25 knots from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort. Lighter northerly winds at about 15 here for the western Arctic coast, and then small craft advisories, heavy freezing spray for the central and eastern coastline, easterlies 25 to 30 knots with seas running 9 to 12 feet. And for tonight, wet along the North Gulf Coast and the Panhandle with showers for the Alaska Peninsula. Wind advisories this evening for the Koyukuk and Upper Yukon valleys. And then the next storm coming northward, again bringing the heavy wind and rain. High wind warning out for Prince of Wales Island tomorrow. Gusts to 70 miles per hour in the forecast, with the wind and rain slowly moving northward throughout the day. Otherwise, showers over south central Alaska. And then for Sunday, that storm weakens and moves into the Yukon, but still a lot of wind and rain across the Panhandle. Partly sunny skies, south central Alaska into the interior. That's a look at the weather. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.